Barry Bingham Jr. was a man whose life intertwined privilege, tragedy, and an unwavering dedication to journalistic integrity. Born into one of Kentucky's most influential families, he rose to lead a media empire that shaped public discourse in Louisville and beyond. Though his name may not evoke the glamour of celebrities, his story reveals the quiet power of those who guard the truth in an age of shifting media landscapes. As a publisher, he championed ethics over profits, navigating personal losses and family conflicts that tested his resolve. Through his journey, we see the human side of legacy building, the triumphs that inspire and the heartaches that endure. Join me as we explore the life of this remarkable figure, from his early days in a bustling southern city to his lasting impact on journalism and community. In the early 20th century, Louisville pulsed with energy as a key river port on the Ohio, where commerce flowed as steadily as the water itself. Steamboats loaded with cargo dotted the horizon, while the city's streets echoed with the sounds of horse-drawn carriages and emerging automobiles. The air was thick with the aromas of bourbon from nearby distilleries and the earthy scent of tobacco from warehouses that fueled the local economy. This was a time of transition, where Southern traditions met industrial progress, and social issues like segregation simmered beneath the surface. Families of wealth and influence like the Binghams played pivotal roles in shaping the city's identity. Barry's grandfather, Robert Worth Bingham, a former judge and U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, laid the foundation for the family's media dominance. In 1919, he purchased controlling interests in the Courier-Journal and the Louisville Times, using inheritance from his second wife, Mary Lily Keenan Flagler Bingham, widow of railroad magnate Henry Flagler. This acquisition wasn't just a business deal. It transformed local newspapers into platforms for progressive change. Robert challenged racial inequalities, advocated for women's suffrage, and pushed against Kentucky's lingering Confederate sympathies, setting a tone of reform that would define the Bingham legacy. Barry's father, George Barry Bingham Sr., took over in the 1930s, expanding the empire beyond print. He launched WAS Radio in 1922 and later added WAS TV in 1950, creating a multimedia powerhouse that prioritized public service. Barry Sr. was known for his liberal stance supporting civil rights and education reforms, often at the expense of advertiser goodwill. The family's Glenview estate, overlooking the river, became a hub of intellectual and cultural activity, hosting dignitaries and fostering a sense of noblesse oblige. It was in this environment of high expectations and societal influence that George Barry Bingham Jr. entered the world on September 23, 1933. As the second son, he grew up in a household where media wasn't just a profession, it was a calling to inform and uplift the community. Yet from the start, his life was marked by the weight of family history, including whispers of scandals from his grandfather's era, such as the mysterious deaths of Robert's first two wives, which fueled tabloid speculation and added layers of complexity to the Bingham narrative. Barry Jr.'s childhood in Glenview offered a blend of idyllic freedom and subtle constraints. The sprawling estate provided endless adventures in its woods and fields, where he and his siblings roamed freely. But the era's fears cast long shadows. The 1932 Lindbergh baby kidnapping and a local incident involving the Stoll family in Louisville heightened paranoia among the wealthy. When Robert Bingham served as ambassador in London from 1933 to 1937, he arranged for police protection for his grandsons back home. Barry later shared fond memories of these guards in an oral history interview archived at the University of Louisville, describing them as gentle protectors who taught him to fish along the Ohio River and play card games during quiet afternoons. They became surrogate family members, offering companionship in a household often preoccupied with business and public duties. Despite this security, deeper vulnerabilities lurked. Barry's education began locally at Ballard School, where he confessed to prioritizing play over studies, learning little amid the distractions of youth. His parents, recognizing the need for structure, sent him to Eaglebrook School in Deerfield, Massachusetts, a preparatory institution known for its rigorous environment. There, he began to develop discipline, though he struggled with a reading disorder that made academic progress challenging. Transitioning to Brooks School in North Andover, Massachusetts, Barry found a setting that honed his intellect and built resilience. The school's emphasis on character development helped him overcome his early insecurities, including battles with obesity that had made him self-conscious. Through self-discipline, he shed the extra weight, emerging more confident. This period also instilled a love for history, which would influence his worldview. In 1952, he enrolled at Harvard University, graduating in 1956 with a bachelor's degree in history. Harvard exposed him to broader perspectives, reinforcing the family values of public service and ethical leadership. During his college years, Barry rowed on the crew team, a hobby that became a lifelong passion. He would rise at dawn to row his single scull on the Ohio River, finding solace in the rhythmic pull of the oars, a ritual that grounded him amid life's turbulence. After graduation, Barry served briefly in the U.S. Marine Corps, an experience that further instilled discipline and a sense of duty. Upon returning, he trained in broadcasting, starting at CBS in New York. He recalled sorting fan mail for The Gary Moore Show, running errands for celebrities, and managing chaotic live productions. One memorable incident involved a runaway prop during a broadcast. Barry had to improvise to prevent disaster, later chuckling about the near miss in interviews. He then moved to NBC, gaining hands-on experience in television that prepared him for the family business. Barry Sr. had meticulously planned the succession. Oldest son Robert Worth Bingham III, known as Worth, would oversee the newspapers while Barry Jr. managed the broadcast properties, was radio, TV, and the standard gravure printing plant. Barry dove into his role with enthusiasm, overseeing operations that included innovative programming and community outreach. But tragedy struck repeatedly, reshaping the family's trajectory. In 1964, Barry's youngest brother, Jonathan Worth Bingham, age 22, died in a devastating accident at the Glenview estate. During a storm, he climbed a utility pole to fix a downed wire and was electrocuted. The loss devastated the family. Barry Sr. later described it in private correspondence as akin to losing a vital part of himself, a wound that never fully healed. Barry Jr., then 31, felt the ripple effects as the incident deepened the family's sense of vulnerability. Just 2 years later, in 1966, another catastrophe unfolded during a family vacation in Nantucket. Worth, 34, a promising leader with a young family, was driving when a surfboard extending from his car's window shifted violently, snapping his neck and killing him instantly. This freak accident, detailed in family biographies like The Patriarch, The Rise and Fall of the Bingham Dynasty, by Susan Tift and Alex Jones, left Barry Jr. as the sole surviving son. He was suddenly thrust into managing the newspapers, a role he hadn't anticipated. Observers noted he felt terribly burdened by the myth surrounding Worth, who was idealized as the perfect heir. Barry assumed control in 1971 at age 38, after his father stepped back from daily operations. Under Barry's leadership, the Courier-Journal, affectionately called the CJ, achieved national acclaim. Sporting his signature mustache and often donning quirky Scottish tam o' shanter hats, a nod to his heritage, He brought a distinctive flair to the role. The paper won 3 Pulitzer Prizes during his tenure, each highlighting his commitment to impactful journalism. In 1976, it earned the award for feature photography, capturing the raw emotions of Louisville's court-ordered school busing for desegregation. Photographers documented tense scenes of protests, integrated classrooms, and children's confusion, humanizing a divisive issue that echoed national struggles for equality. The 1978 Pulitzer recognized an exhaustive investigation into the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire in Southgate, Kentucky, which killed 165 people in 1977. Reporters uncovered safety violations, overcrowding, and inadequate fire codes, leading to reforms that prevented future tragedies. Barry insisted on thorough coverage, allocating resources despite costs. Finally, in 1980, the paper won for international reporting with a series on Cambodian refugees, blending poignant narratives and stark images of famine and displacement. Correspondents risked their lives to bring global crises to local readers, reflecting Barry's belief in journalism's role in fostering empathy. Barry's philosophy centered on ethics and public service, often prioritizing them over financial gains. Colleagues dubbed him a stickler for professionalism, sometimes to an extreme. He maintained regional bureaus across Kentucky, from Paducah to Pikeville, despite their high expense, ensuring comprehensive coverage of rural communities. Communities matter, he emphasized in a 1990s interview, lamenting their closure under new owners. Transparency was paramount. When fined for unintentionally shooting a dove over a baited field, a minor hunting violation, he demanded the story run in his paper. He violated the law, a staffer recalled, and Barry wanted no special treatment. He even reported his own traffic infractions, like speeding on River Road or running a red light, to underscore accountability. This rigor extended to the newsroom, where he fostered an environment of integrity, installing the industry's first ombudsman in 1967 to handle public complaints, and offering progressive employee benefits like subsidized daycare and paternity leave. Beneath this steadfast exterior, Barry grappled with immense personal pain. The brothers' deaths compounded earlier family traumas, including his grandfather's controversial marriages. Robert's first wife, Eleanor Miller Bingham, died in a 1913 car train accident, and his second, Mary Lily, passed in 1917 amid rumors of morphine overdose or foul play, speculation that haunted the family. Barry rarely discussed these publicly, but in archived interviews he hinted at the emotional burden. Then, in 1971, shortly after assuming leadership, Barry faced his own health crisis, diagnosis of Hodgkin's disease, the same lymphoma that claimed his grandfather. At 38, with the empire's future on his shoulders, the news was devastating. The cancer was advanced, requiring aggressive radiation therapy and surgery. Barry endured grueling treatments, including cobalt radiation that left him fatigued and nauseous. Emotionally, it plunged him into uncertainty. He confided to close friends the fear of not seeing his daughters grow up. Yet, his determination shone through. Drawing on the discipline from his youth, he adopted a rigorous regimen of exercise and diet, rowing daily, monitoring every calorie to aid recovery. Miraculously, he beat the odds, emerging stronger but forever changed. This battle, detailed in The Patriarch, intensified his sense of purpose, making him more obsessive about health and legacy. Barry's marriage to Edith Wharton Stenhouse Franchini provided an anchor amid these storms. They met through mutual friends in Louisville's social circles, marrying in a quiet ceremony that blended their lives seamlessly. Edith, with her warm demeanor and artistic interests, brought stability. They had two daughters, Emily S. Bingham, who became an author documenting family history in books like Irrepressible, The Jazz Age Life of Henrietta Bingham, and Mary C. Bingham, known as Molly, a journalist and former CEO who continued the media tradition. Edith's two sons from her first marriage, Philip John Franchini and Charles Wharton Bingham, became part of the family, offering Barry the joys of a blended household. Family outings to Nantucket or quiet evenings at Glenview provided respite. Barry cherished simple pleasures like teaching his children to row or sharing stories of his Harvard days. In a rare personal quote from a 1980s family memoir excerpt, he described fatherhood as the quiet counterbalance to the chaos of deadlines and decisions. These moments humanized him, revealing a tender side behind the publisher's facade. However, family harmony frayed under business pressures. Barry's demand for merit-based leadership sparked intense conflicts. He sought to remove his mother, Mary Caperton Bingham, his wife Edith, and sisters Eleanor Bingham Miller and Sally Bingham from the company board, arguing their involvement was based on blood ties rather than expertise. Professionalism at all levels, he insisted, viewing it as essential for the empire's survival in a competitive media world. To his sisters, especially Sally, a feminist writer and advocate, it felt like patriarchal exclusion. Sally, detailed in her memoir Passion and Prejudice, felt sidelined in a male-dominated legacy, resenting Barry's control. The feud, chronicled in The Patriarch, involved heated board meetings and legal threats, blending grief over lost brothers with disputes over direction. Barry saw himself as safeguarding the paper's integrity. Critics labeled him stubborn. A poignant anecdote. Amid the acrimony, Barry quietly provided financial support to his sisters, a gesture of underlying affection unearthed in family letters. This nuance highlights life's contradictions, love persisting through betrayal. The tensions culminated in 1986 when Barry Sr., at 80 and still chairman, announced the sale of the entire empire. Citing divergent interests, he ended nearly 70 years of Bingham control. Barry Jr. called it a betrayal, heartbroken by the loss. The newspapers fetched $307 million from Gannett Company, radio stations went to Clear Channel Communications, and WAS TV to the Providence Journal. Debates ensued. Was it inevitable amid corporate consolidation, or a preventable failure of unity? Historians, including Tift and Jones, attribute it to generational clashes, Barry's ethics-driven approach versus siblings' push for liquidity. Sally later reflected in her writings on gender inequities, feeling dismissed in a dynasty built by men. Post-sale, Barry launched Fine Line, a newsletter dissecting ethical dilemmas in journalism. Though short-lived, 1987 to 1991, it influenced ethics education, with case studies used at universities like Indiana. A lesser-known quote from it, "Ethics isn't a luxury, it's the spine of our craft. Without it, we crumble." This venture kept him engaged, critiquing the industry he loved. The sale's repercussions extended beyond the family. Louisville lost a locally owned voice committed to depth, shifting toward Gannett's profit-focused model. Barry publicly criticized changes like front-page ads, a banner at the bottom cheapens the truth, and bureau closures, which he had sustained at great cost. The CJ's prestige waned, though it retained some influence. Nationally, Barry's story illustrates media's transformation from family enterprises to conglomerates, eroding public service emphasis. His experience teaches a steep price of integrity. It can fracture bonds but strengthen institutions. In our era of misinformation, Barry reminds us that principled journalism fosters democracy. His philanthropy continued, supporting Actors Theater of Louisville, funding productions that enriched cultural life, and Bernheim Arboretum, preserving 15,000 acres for environmental education and research. In later years, Barry withdrew from public life, becoming a reclusive yet thoughtful figure. He rode his skull on the Ohio, seeking tranquility in the water's flow. Health setbacks, a heart attack in the early 2000s requiring a pacemaker, and recurring pneumonia slowed him, but his spirit endured. At a 2006 Ritz-Carlton dinner with Harvard classmates, he proposed a Charles River row, an impossible dream that captured his enduring vitality. He passed on April 3, 2006 at 72 from respiratory failure at home, surrounded by family. Buried at Cave Hill Cemetery beside ancestors, his obituary in the New York Times lauded him as a guardian of journalistic enterprise. Reflecting on Barry Bingham Jr., we see a man who balanced privilege with profound loss, success with sorrow, all with quiet dignity. His legacy calls us to value truth, even when painful, and nurture human connections. Ultimately, he shows that enduring empires rest on courage, not conquest.